Hey guys, do you remember way back in season 1 how we did 3 episodes for Superman? Well, get ready to meet his cousin. Okay, so Supergirl. Supergirl is confusing. You see, by my account, there are about 6 or 8 of them by now, and if you count the characters that got runs in the earlier Superman books before she officially showed up, the number actually gets higher. This episode will be taking a look at the original Supergirl, one Kara Zor-El of Krypton. And the original Kara Zor-El was created by one Otto Bender, who is also credited with the creation of Miss America and Mary Marvel, along with Beppo the Super Monkey, Titano the Super Ape, and Crypto the Super Dog, along with more well-known and lasting fixtures like the Phantom Zone, Brainiac, and the Legion of Superheroes. The original Supergirl first debuted in Action Comics 252, May of 1959, in which the definite Kara Zor-El is sent to Earth by her parents Zor-El and Alora to be raised by her cousin Kal-El, known as Superman. This is where things get kind of dumb. You see, this was 50s Superman, and as such, he was already trying to keep things neat. So instead of inviting his only blood relative to come live with him inside his fabulous ice fortress, he instead puts her up in an orphanage, and she is then given the name Linda Lee, along with a brown wig like how Superman wears glasses to conceal his secret identity. It was also decided that Kara shouldn't come out as being Clark Kent's cousin or come out to the world as existing because it was the 1950s and was expected by the overwhelmingly male writers, artists, and editors that as a girl she was too hormonal to keep either of her identities a secret. Yeah, like I said, 50s Superman. Here's where Superman gets boring, not because he's too powerful like many people say, but because DC had Superman set up to be a role model for young boys, which meant he always had to be morally upright and always in the right, whereas Supergirl got to get in over her head, screw up, and try and fix her own problems, which often made for better stories. The good news is she did eventually get out of that situation and was adopted by Fred and Enda Danvers in 1961, becoming Linda Lee Danvers. She was also at last introduced by her superpowered cousin in the story An Unsuspecting World in Action Comics 285 in 1962, and then introduced to her parents as being Superman's cousin. Supergirl would then go on to share Action Comics with Superman until her transfer to Adventure Comics at the end of the 1960s. During this period, Linda moved to San Pablo College and then to San Francisco in 1972. She was finally moved to her own magazine, but the move, which involved a change of creative staff, was not successful and the magazine was soon cancelled after that. Supergirl, along with Lois Lane and Jimmy Olsen, whose magazines were cancelled around the same time, were moved to the Superman Family comic book, of which she soon became the lead character, before her magazine relaunched some years later. She was also allowed to age, even though most characters weren't. Breaking of the mold, a little bit of intentional oversight, maybe. Or maybe not drawing her as a 15-year-old made it okay to start drawing her in hot pants. Now, here's one of the interesting things, and before I start, yes, Power Girl will be getting her own episode later on. So, in the 70s, one of the things that became popular was rebooting old comic book series, and as such, the second series for All-Star Comics was on the move. As mentioned on the show before, All-Star Comics, or Earth 2, were made to take older characters in new directions. Because of all these characters had shown up around World War II, things had changed. Superman was going gray, Flash still had his funny hat, and Supergirl got to grow up. As such, the writers at DC thought it would be a good idea to take the Earth 2 Supergirl in a new direction and have her embrace military feminism, at least as how it was understood by male comic book writers, to a degree that would even raise Wonder Woman's eyebrows. However, because Wonder Woman is an Amazon, that probably wasn't the only thing that had that effect on her. Oh, come on, I'm allowed to make one bad joke, aren't I? Anyways, back to our main character. You see, from the 70s onward, DC had been having a lot of fun making and populating other Earths like Earth 2, and a lot of the old-time fans really liked this. but the casual readers, to say nothing of outsiders, were intimidated by it. So DC made a year-long miniseries called Crisis on Infinite Earths that took all the DC multiverse and made it into one singular Earth with one history. As for Supergirl, well, the 80s had not been kind to her. Her comic book and TV series were cancelled for low sales around the same time her live-action movie came out, which turned out to be a big box office bomb. However, DC still gave her a major send-off. Supergirl went out in a blaze of glory, saving Superman's life from the Anti-Monitor. And for the first time since 1959, the DC universe had been without a Supergirl. As for Power Girl, well, even though the Crisis blinked Earth 2 out of existence, some of its characters got to live on in the new Earth. And next time, I'll explain what DC did to fix their Supergirl problem. I'll catch you guys then.